Welcome. So on this video we shall be looking at things that concerns the internet, website and web development. And this is a high level overview. We are not going to be covering everything in detail, but I will do my best to give you what is needed to get started. And to begin with, we are going to see the difference between internet and website, which oftentimes people mistaken them to be the same. Now the internet is a collection of computers that are connected together, and then these computers are distributed in different countries worldwide, and they're able to communicate with each other. That is, they are networked together. And then in the internet there are a lot of services running. We have email, we have the World Wide Web, we have voice over IP and so many other services on the internet. So the website we are going to be talking about later is actually a subset or a part of the internet, not the internet as a whole. Okay, so the internet is a collection of computers that are networked together and they're able to communicate. And then we come to websites now, which happens to be part of the internet. So when we talk about the internet, just know that we're talking about so many things here. But when we now come to website, we have now channeled our attention to one part of the internet. And what is a website to start with? A website is a collection of web pages and related content that is identified by a common domain name, and then it is published on at least one server. So let me quickly break all of this down. Now a website normally is a collection of web pages, that is digital document or online documents, okay, web pages that are gathered together and then they are kept under one domain. We have millions of websites, that is, we have millions of web pages, but the ones that are related to one website are collected and then kept under one domain name. And then for this website to be accessible to the people, it has to be hosted on a web server. A web server now is a computer that is connected to the internet and that is powered 24 hours. It is always on. So you have your website hosted there and then it will now be accessible to everyone on the internet. The internet, like I said earlier, is a combination of so many stuff. So for now, I would likely be using the word internet to refer to website, since we are going to be talking about web development here. Now websites are made up of HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Okay, website during the olden days didn't really have all of this coupled into them. They were just barely HTML, and then before CSS came in, JavaScript also came in. Okay, but right now we have websites that have pictures, that have videos, that have audios all embedded into them. Now, not to forget, we have two type of website. We have static website and we have dynamic website. So just as the name suggests, static websites do not change. Even though they change, it means the owner of the website will have to go and then do the modification itself, or he or herself, for the data to change. While dynamic websites are those ones that have or display different things to different people. Let's take Facebook for instance. We can be using Facebook at the same time but be having different news on our news feed. Okay, it is dynamic. We don't see the same thing, all of us. Okay, if I go to my profile, I would see my name and my profile picture. If you go to your profile, you see yours. So like, we don't see the same thing, we see different things based on whoever that is using this website. Now moving further, let me quickly explain the request response cycle. Since we are going to be going into web development, it is not that we know what happens anytime we try to use the internet or the web. Now I have my computer by my left here, and then I have a Google server by my right. This is just for illustration purposes. Now my computer cannot talk directly to the Google server. It's not possible. So there are some mechanism that needs to be employed. And first thing first, you need to be able to communicate with your ISP, that is your internet service providers. We are now talking about the likes of MTN, Airtel, Glo, and the rest of them, SpectraNet, and other internet service provider. Now these guys are the ones to grant you access to the internet. And you might be wondering, since we have millions of computers connected in the internet, how then do MTN or our service provider know how to direct us to the right resources that we're looking for? Well, what actually happens is the ISP would then send you to a DNS server, that is a domain name system server. The DNS server is a very huge computer that has a collection of websites that are available on the internet. And then from there, if you give it a name of a website you're looking for, it gives you in return the IP address of that website, which is a unique identity of that website. So using that unique identity, that is the IP address, you can be able to send your request directly to that computer, and then the computer will also be able to send back your response to you using all of this. Now all of this request response cycle actually happens in a matter of milliseconds, very very fast, that you don't even know that all of this long process is being carried on just for you to get a single result from your search or whatever it is that you're accessing on the internet. Now moving further, we have the front end and the back end. This is worth discussing because we are going to be dealing with web development, and this aspect is very very important. Now websites are divided into front end and back end. Every website follows this convention. Now the front end is the visual part of our website, or where the users get to see and interact with, while the back end now is where the main logic and activities of the website are being carried out from. Let's take a school portal for instance. When you log into a school portal, you definitely have an interface where you can check your courses, you can log in, you can log out, and then you can even check your timetable or other stuffs. Now the visual part you get to see is the front end, while the back end now is more of logic. Let's say you just give it your username and password, and automatically it fetches your information. These are activities of the back end. Or let's say you pay your fee, and then the portal automatically generate a matric number for you. These are all activities that are being done in the back end. So it has been argued that the front end is somehow easier than the back end, even though all of them comes with their complexity as well as the joy of learning either of them. Okay, so for the front end now, we are talking about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, while for the back end we are talking about programming language like JavaScript again, Java, Python, PHP, Dart, Golang, and so many other programming languages that you can use for your back end. Now for the remaining courses, we are going to be focusing on front end for now. After we've gained a very good understanding of the front end, we would then move to the back end and see how we can then use the two of them. Now a very good example of front end and the back end, let's use a restaurant for instance. When you go to the restaurants, you don't see what is happening in the kitchen. You just sit, take the menu, and then make your orders. The waiter then goes to the kitchen and then gets you whatever it is that you order. The same thing, those people in the kitchen don't know who is making that order. All they do is package whatever that has been ordered and then give it to the waiter to bring it to whoever that needs it. So you now being in wherever you are seated to be delivered, for your food to be delivered to you, you are like interacting with the front end. You don't get to talk to the guys in the kitchen who are doing the main cooking there, who happens to be the back end. Okay, you don't get to see them, but you only feel their impact. Of course, you request for food, and then the food is being brought to you, which is being prepared by the people in the kitchen. Okay, so you can see the kitchen now as the back end, while the interactivity you carry out while you wait for your food or while you place your order is like the front end, where you as an ordinary user you get to interact with. So now moving further, we would see what you need to get started. So what do you need, okay, for you to be able to start creating your website or to start learning how to create website? Well, you just need two things. Unlike installation of other programming language that you need to download a lot of things and then you need to do plenty of setup, but for learning of web front end, you just need a text editor. That is where you will be writing your HTML, your CSS, and your JavaScript. And then you need a browser that is going to run your web pages and give you the result. These are just the two things you need, and then you are good to go. So there are a lot of options to choose from. And regarding the browsers, we have Chrome, we have Firefox, we have Opera, we have Edge, we have Tor, and so many. I prefer to use Chrome. I've been using it for some time and I just like it. So you can use whichever you're comfortable with, provided it is going to give you the needed result. And for our text editor, we have Sublime Text, we have Atom, we have Visual Studio Code, we have Notepad++, and so many other options out there. But still, I prefer to use Visual Studio Code. And if you would ask me, I would suggest you use the same thing so that we would be on the same page. Okay, so these are the two things you need to get started. You can just take a Google search and then you'll be able to download VS Code or Sublime Text or Atom. And for your browser, I guess you definitely have a browser on your system or your phone for you to be able to have access to the internet. These are just the two things you need to venture into web development. Okay, so let me quickly go through what we've learned. We've discussed about internet, which is a collection of different computers that are networked together, and the internet has a lot of services apart from the World Wide Web, which happens to be one of the most popular aspects of the internet. We also talked about web pages, that is website, a collection of web pages that are grouped together under one domain, and then for them to be accessible to the public, they need to be hosted in a web server. Now, a web server is a computer that stores those resources that we need, and then we are now like the client who access those informations that are stored on a web server. So that's it for this one. We'll see on the next one to move further and then start writing our basic HTML code. From there we shall proceed to other advanced aspects of front-end development. Thank you.